Hey Westlight. Today's Dear Westlight might sound a little political, but it's not meant to be. The reason I have to say this is because everything is being politicized today, and sometimes you just want to say one thing without insinuating something else. So today, what I mean to say is what I say and nothing more than that. Earlier this week, our home city, Los Angeles, made some modifications to our stay-at-home order. If you take a look at it, you'll notice that it's gotten a lot stricter, that you can't eat outside anymore at a restaurant. You can't go to somebody else's house. Of course, I don't think you were supposed to do that in the first place. So everything's gotten a little more strict, except for one thing. And I want to read this to you right from the LA County website. It says, all public and private gatherings with individuals not in your household are prohibited, except for faith-based services and protests, which are constitutionally protected rights. This means this coming Sunday, I could just say, hey, let's gather because we're a church, we're a faith-based organization, and we're going to have our first Sunday service together. And as a matter of fact, a couple of you have emailed me asking me if I was aware about this. And yes, I am aware about this, but the answer is no, we're not going to be gathering physically for the foreseeable future. So if you've been following the news, church news, which isn't that exciting, so I don't know why you would do that. But if you've been following that news, you'll notice that there's been some churches, bigger churches in California, who've been challenging the governor that he has no right to shut down Sunday services. And for all I know, maybe they're right. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. But now that it's been made clear, why isn't Westlight gathering physically? Now, there's a lot of reasons, but the one reason I want to draw our attention to today is from Philippians chapter 2. So let's take a look at that. This is Paul the Apostle writing. He says this, in your relationships with one another, have the same mindset as Christ Jesus, meaning the way you relate to the people inside the church, the people in your family, people outside your family, outside the church. This is how you ought to approach these relationships. Christ Jesus, who, being in the very nature God, did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage. Rather, he made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness. And being found in appearance as a man, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to death, even death on a cross. So this is what Paul is saying. The way that we need to live our lives is by mimicking the example of Jesus. So how did Jesus live his life? If this is God and this is humanity, Paul is saying God stripped himself of his divinity to become a human being. And when he got there, he even stripped himself of a normal human being and became a servant. And at that point, he decided to die a criminal's death. Now, why would he do that? It's so that he could serve humanity. It's the way that he loves us. So if you think about it, God is the one with the most rights. He could do whatever he wants because he's God. But he decided to take his rights and put it on a shelf so that he could love on humanity. And if you were to heed Paul's advice to the church, then that means the church also ought to set our rights aside for the sake of loving on our neighbors. The church ought to be defined as people who are not chasing after their rights, although rights are important, but people who are always chasing after how better they can love our community. So this is why we're not going to be gathering for the foreseeable future. We're not going to be gathering for the rest of the year, and chances are we're not going to be gathering physically for the first part of 2021. I believe this decision is consistent with who we are and with our values, and is consistent with what we've been preaching from the pulpit. And I hope that you see it too, that you feel God's nudging that this is the right thing for us to do. Now, I know there are other churches out there who are desperately trying to open and gather physically, and that's fine. God may have laid on their hearts something else than us. But for us, this is what we're doing. And so please don't judge other churches for not falling in line with what we decided to do. By not gathering physically, we're removing potential anxieties that we might be bringing to the LA community. We're also helping our medical professionals by not adding extra weight on their already busy workload. And most importantly, I believe that this is bringing heaven on earth. So I hope that puts to rest why we're not gathering physically yet. Now, believe me when I say, I really, really miss you guys. I miss seeing your faces, I miss your hugs, your handshakes. As soon as we find out that it's safe to gather again, we will do so. But in this season, I think we can all agree that the best decision is to stay home and keep our community safe. Of course, if you have any questions, feel free to email me, kotz@westlight.org, and I would be happy to answer any of your questions. So God bless, stay safe, and I'll see you on the internet.